Facebook, Pinterest, and Etsy. What do all of these websites have in common? They show you crafts that people make that look easy, yet when you go to make it, it seems impossible. How can this be? The caption of the video says, "Crafts for beginners." I'm a beginner, so why can't I do this craft? From personal experience, I can tell you that I used to be one of these people. Now I am someone who turns to these kind of crafts for relaxation. Today I am going to demonstrate to you the steps in making one of my favorite crafts, decorative mason jars. Since fall is around the corner, I decided to demonstrate how to make these fall-themed mason jars. In creating these decorative mason jars, there are 4 major steps: gathering your utensils, preparing the mason jars, preparing the accessory pieces, and assembling the pieces together. The first major step in creating these fall mason jars is to gather your utensils. You will need mason jars, obviously. I chose pint-sized mason jars, but you can choose quart-sized ones also. It depends on how large you want your decorations to be. Now you need to decide on what colors you want your jars. You can choose 1 color or 4 colors like I did. I chose matte acrylic paint in marsh green, Tuscan red, King's gold, and territorial beige. You will also need black paint for the letters. I chose matte acrylic black. Next, you need paintbrushes. Sponge brushes do not work well on glass, so choose a regular paintbrush. I used 1 for every color, but the black I use a smaller brush. So these are the brushes that I use, regular paintbrushes. You will also need burlap and twine. I use wire burlap ribbon with a height that looked like they would match my jars, and jet cord twine. Lastly, you will need a hot glue gun and hot glue. Now that we have all of our utensils, we can begin to prepare our mason jars. The second major step in preparing your mason jars is to prepare them. If the jars are new, they can be painted right away. However, if they are used, they need to be washed thoroughly with soap and water. Once this is done, we can begin to paint our first coats of paint. After each jar's first coat has dried, the second coat of paint can be applied. Once the second coat has dried completely, you can decide if some colors need more coat. If so, apply a third coat and let it dry completely. The only color for me that needed a third coat was the yellow color. While you are waiting for the third coat of paint to dry, you can begin to work on your accessory pieces. The third major step in preparing the accessory pieces. I measured the burlap and wrapped it around the unused mason jar to the desired length. I wanted it longer than what the jar was measured, so I had an area that I could glue the burlap together. Once I had a piece, I measured it to the ribbon of burlap and cut 3 more pieces of equal length. I did the same with the twine, and I wanted a lot of extra twine to tie a knot. Most of my twine was too long, so when it was tied on the jar, I would need to be trimmed down. Now on each piece of burlap in the center, trace the letters F-A-L-L. Now paint the letters with a first coat of black paint. Once the first coat is dry, you will need to paint a second coat of black for each letter to make them stand out more. The paint needs to be dry completely before you put the burlap on the jars. Once the accessory pieces are finished, the jars can be put together. The fourth and final major step is to assemble the pieces together. I tied the twine around the neck of the mason jar first. I also cut off any excess twine off of the knots. I just knotted the twine, and the knot can be glued to keep it from falling apart. However, I did not. Now we can wrap the burlap with the letters around the body of the jar. You can align your letters on any side of the jar, and any letter can be on any color of jar. Once this is complete, hot glue the ends of the burlap together on the back side of each mason jar. The jars can be distressed if you want. To do this, you can use sandpaper and sand off some of the paint in the desired places. The jars can also be weatherproofed if you want them outside. To do this, you can spray them with a clear coat of sealant. You can also put flowers or any fall decorations inside of them. Through different methods of social media, we are presented ideas of crafts that seem easy but end up nearly impossible. crafts for beginners should be extremely easy to make. Hopefully after this speech, those crafts for beginners will make much more sense and be much smoother to create. With this speech, any mason jar craft can be attainable through the 4 easy steps of gathering utensils, preparing the mason jars, preparing the accessory pieces, and assembling the pieces together. Thank you.